call to order. We will follow the agenda. I don't have a copy of the previous meeting minutes for us to approve. We'll get those circulated as soon as possible and get the approvals via email on that. That takes us down to item number 4, which is public input. If we have public input, we'll hear from those here. We'll have about 3 minutes for each person, and we appreciate the public input. Anybody want to make a comment?
We don't go to enough meetings, so it would be great if you guys introduced yourselves.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I'll start. I'm Mark Christensen. I'm the newest board member.
Okay.
And I'm Robert Saul, I'm the second newest
Okay.
board member.
Ed Wood, and I'm the third newest member, and probably the second oldest member as well. So we are missing 2 of our members tonight. Wendell Turner had planned to be here with the storms that have happened. He's in a jet moving some people out of Florida and did not make it back in time. And Jerry Edwards is the longest term member on the Airport Authority. Jerry, I thought was going to be here tonight. He may come in a few minutes late. Jerry is the designated member from the Airport Authority, the Development Authority. The Development Authority owns 1 seat on the Airport Authority, and he is the designee from the Development Authority side.
Chris Parrish.
Chris is no longer on the Airport Authority. He resigned. He had some health issues going on and business issues driving him crazy.
Yeah.
So with that, he resigned, and Mark has now joined the group. So that took place a couple of meetings ago. So all right, so that's got us on the public input. Anything else? No other public input? All right, we'll move on to committee and authority member reports. Gentlemen, anything that you guys wish to report? I don't know that we have a committee report at the moment. We don't have any active committees at the moment. But if there's any reports from the authority members, we can take those as well. Okay. From my side, I have a few things I want to touch on, but I think that Alexis, I don't want to steal any of her thunder or the engineer's thunder, so we'll get to those things as we move on down the list. The treasurer's report, I haven't seen one come out for this month. It's a bit early. It has not been released. As soon as that's out, we'll get it circulated via email for review, and we can touch on it for the next meeting if we need to. From the last report I saw, we're over on a couple of areas. We're under on a couple of areas. Overall, we're within our guidelines of where we should be. And some of those expenses where we're over are actually annually recurring expenses. Insurance and things of that sort get paid out once a year rather than appropriated out on a monthly basis. So, airport managers report. Stacy, Alexis, where do you two?
Yeah, so we just had a meeting 3 weeks ago, so
Yeah, not a
2
lot
months
to
report on. Fuel sales haven't skyrocketed due to, the storm that did come in, although it thankfully didn't hit us as hard. We did have a lot of winds, the cold front that came through prior. It was very difficult for anybody to fly, so wouldn't say our fuel sales were the greatest. With that, we did take damage from the storm to our current building, our current terminal building. So we are moving out of our terminal building currently. We are going to demolish the building that we have now and put a temporary trailer there until we can have an FBO built. So I will say if anybody has any things that they donated to the airport, come and get them.
I
If
don't
you'd
want the
like.
furniture back.
Come and get your couch, please, Edwin. But like rocking chairs, I know that's a big thing. So if you donated a rocking chair, please come and grab it because we do have to get rid of a significant amount of things. Not that we want to throw everything out, but just in general, a lot of things took a lot of damage in that building over the years. So we're gonna have a temporary trailer that has very minimal because it belongs to the county. And then we'll move into our FBO where we will, of course, have rocking chairs and stuff like that. Well, new rocking chairs. Kenny's coming with dumpsters in the next couple days, just so you guys know. So we're gonna start throwing things in big dumpsters. I will be gone for GAA next week, so I'm trying to get rid of what I can now, cause they will probably come and demolish the current FPO within the next couple weeks.
Is there a plan for that yet? Do we know who's gonna do that work and the timeline on which they're gonna be removing it? And does that timeline coincide with delivery of the new temporary building?
I wouldn't say they all add up right now. I will say that we have a plan for demolishment. We will have to come up with a plan for moving over. We do have a plan for moving over our, internet, our cables and stuff like that. We just need to come up with a plan for our, moving over our, waste, our,
Water.
what's it?
Water and septic.
Water and septic.
Septic, yeah.
And there is some water underneath the building that they'll have to deal with, so.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring in a few loads of gravel to stabilize that site before we put a building on top of it.
But I have talked to road department and they're aware of it, so that we're gonna work together and it's kind of like a demolish a building and figure out what we need to do after that, cause none of us know what's underneath that building at this point.
Have no clue.
Anybody's guess.
I know that we've had water standing under that building multiple times with every rain, and it's a problem, ongoing problem, so I don't know what we're gonna have to do to stabilize it, but we may need fill dirt and we may need gravel
And that's
to stabilize.
we have our, food truck fly-in Fridays. We did have to cancel the, Taylor treat, cause we don't know exactly the timeline of what's going on with the damage to the building and everything that's going on there. But our food truck fly-in Fridays starts November 8th, and we are booked all the way up until February. So we're really excited for that. We'll have a food truck every month, and we'll have, tables and chairs and, it'll be a fun day for a fly-in. So that's all I got.
Ms. Alexis, do you expect that'll be the second Friday of every month, or a regular, or just sometime
I'm gonna
this
put out
month?
the dates. It's November 8th and then, December 15th or 14th, I think. I don't have a.
Which could be a second Friday. If it can end up being a regular, so we can all know it on our calendars in advance, if that works out. Thank you.
And Alexa, you calling that food truck Friday?
Food truck flying Fridays.
Flying food Fridays, fast food Fridays.
The 12 to 2, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m.
I saw the mowing crew is out there today, it's looking nice out there, they're getting tons of grass cleaned up, looking very good.
Alexis, are you gonna do the advertise for the food truck Friday on Social Flight?
Yep, it's gonna be on Social Flight, it's gonna be on Facebook, it's gonna be on our website, and it's gonna be on a newsletter. I was gonna put out a newsletter today, but we're trying to get our computers out of there, so, we might not have a newsletter this month, I'll grab my laptop, but, things are a little bit difficult this month, so just bear with us as we transition into our little trailer, and then,
And then someday.
Thank you. Stacy,
Have anything?
did you get everything cleaned up last time I was here? Wasn't the last meeting, it was time prior. We talked about liability insurance on land lease buildings.
There is still a few that's in the works, but they have at least made contact with me and are keeping me informed of where they're at with their agent and whatnot. I know one, because of the bad weather and the storms that hit, they are kind of like on hold, but for processing, but I've talked directly to that person's agent. And she has reiterated that she would send me updated documentation as soon as it was lifted, whatever they've got frozen now, but yeah,
Okay, I know you occupancy insurance on mine.
yes.
I'll get that, I'm in the process of renewing insurance, so I'll get that out to you as soon as.
And that's been the case for a couple of different people, so I would say we've probably got maybe 4 that I'm still needing.
I know I can get you one for the current insurance, but it's gonna be void in 3 weeks, 4 weeks anyway, so
Spare me the extra work.
that's what I thought as well.
one last thing real quick is we are, we're gonna submit it to you. We are getting the ADA compliant, porta potty for wheelchair accessible
For after hours.
for after hours and for the time that the terminal's down for the short amount of time. We will have bathrooms in the new FBF or the short-term trailer, but we will also have a 24-hour, wheelchair accessible
Porta potty.
porta potty. Yeah, we're gonna get to you today.
As soon as we can get that, we'll
Huh?
be able to get it in like 2 days.
Yeah, we hope.
All right, thank you. So that covers the airport manager's report. Airport engineer's report is next. This one might be long.
Terminal building. Perhaps you've heard. So terminal building, and I talked about this, I guess, before the last or so. You are waiting on a notice to proceed from GDOT, which they are holding because of your AWAS tower. So we talked about a bit of a plan of attack with that, with 3 options, depending on what you heard literally by yesterday. And that option we will go forward with is sending the 7460 about a new tower height. They, when those are set in, GDOT Aviation, actually, you have to send to them. They review before it's allowed to submit to FAA. That is a process that you are doing essentially to try to get them to move, to allow you to move forward with the terminal building. That notice to proceed from them, any work you do prior to that, you are not eligible to get any of the money they set aside for the building, so that's a big deal. In the meantime, we're working with the contractor to kind of have them teed up as much as we can in advance. We just spoke with them yesterday that for them to have all subs ready and not push them back, we tentatively said if that takes 30 more days or something for this to get worked out with DOT. And really, you're not gonna get a new AWAS tower by then again. You're just thinking, for the severity and importance of this, we are obviously, which we've sent them before, we'll follow through and take care of adjusting this tower height. As you build taller buildings, there's a requirement that the wind sensor on top of that tower is 15 feet or more higher than anything around it within a 500-foot radius. So as you build taller things, even some of the stuff you have on in the future, the idea is you will move it one time. We've looked at the height of everything that could be built, and you will move it one time, add one time, and it will be set at a place you won't have to touch it again, no matter what's built. So you've got to get the notice to proceed from GDOT. However, in coordination of the other stuff, we just talked to the contractor yesterday. If they would, we don't control it, you don't control it, but anticipating maybe that's 30 days out or something for the GDOT notice to proceed, have their people and subs all ready to go in what would be around the beginning of December. So you're kind of, if you give them 30 days and then we tee up for them to mobilize and all that, that's kind of what that looks like. And then obviously, as GDOT, if they push more or something, there's some other options that we discussed that would ratchet up the messaging of the importance of letting you move forward. There's some, but that's basically it on the arc of the terminal build as far as getting going. That construction time is 210 days. No matter when you started, you would have started probably in the winter and ended up in the nice weather, or start in nice weather and end up in the winter because of the length of it. There's always a possibility we get weather that is out of the control of the contractor in January, for example, and we have ways with documenting that and what it is, typical of any project. But basically, you've got 210, 7 months, so you're looking at a completion that would be like June or July of next year.
So a question for you, there was something that you and I talked about previous about long lead time items.
Yeah.
Have you had that discussion with the contractor? Are there any items that are deemed long lead time?
There are, but they come later, so it looks like we can get started and all that.
Okay.
There's also discussion that sometimes, like we still have the electrical items now, like panels and things like that. Those are nightmarish for all projects. So we're talking about those things and making sure that those are moving ahead and all that. So talking about them, and it looks like it'll fall, so we'll be able to go, and then those things will come along. So we're okay. And then obviously with the site work is done, that's a huge advantage versus that going on, while we're trying to do the building. we're so tight space-wise, so the fact that the building will be demoed and the trailer will sit on the Eagles Flight is a huge thing, because it's good that we're constrained because of the loaner hangar and our existing terminal, but anyway.
So Phil, if we didn't put it exactly where it is, if we put it where the fuel truck has been parked of recent, on that corner of paved asphalt,
Yeah.
would that be an acceptable area?
That would be great, and actually, in anticipation of saying, we just talked about that yesterday.
Okay.
In case you had the trailer before you demoed, or you thought, if you put it there, that's fantastic.
Well, and the thought in my head is that if we end up with a site problem that's gonna be difficult to fill, can't get it stabilized, that would be the fallback position. is to put
And
it-
you basically take this approach, anything outside that fence, green light, like because nothing, that's a border and a buffer between the building, and, so that's a great way to handle it.
Good to know. Thank you.
We have, the fence phase 2, which is the $1 million of, fence that we got the grant for. That arc is the same as it's been, that goes through design now. We go to GDOT at the end of the year. They have, planned to allow the phase 1 bid to just be kind of extrapolated to this based on the design. Again, we're after the first of the year, probably in early, could be March or something, by the time they write the grant, and that phase 1 and 2 together begin, but we'll continue to update in our December meeting. We'll kind of talk about that schedule, but that's obviously a huge positive project for us. On the LED lighting project that was finished, at final inspection, that's all great. Now enough time's passed, you're under warranty for a year and all that stuff. However, we've been holding retainage, now just talk to it, is there anything today that's not functioning other than lights that are getting run over, which is contractor's issue? We will then be working on paperwork to release retainage, the 10% we hold back. Again, you're still protected because things are under warranty. But again, the project looks great. The 5-year CIP, which we approved last time, that's all in the works. This is where we put together all the paperwork that goes with it, and that goes in November 5th. We do have, in the FAA reauthorization, they made a tweak to the DBE plan criteria, which is disadvantaged business enterprise plan, minority and female-owned businesses. When you have a project that's over $250,000, there's an assignment of a certain percentage of that work that is to be given to minority and female businesses on an approved list. In the tweak and the reauthorization, it requires you to go back and do some additional things in the DBE plan, which is done every 3 years. So that requirement, they came out and said that was just done. They came out and said there's a deadline for all airports, 5,000 airports in a year, October 7th. However, and that's not possible because their criteria just came out. But they said if you have it by December, that's okay. So those plans are done by DBE firm that specializes in DBE firm. It's a sub to us because we've been through the procurement process. We add nothing to it cost-wise, it's just a straight pass-through. But that plan update to meet the new requirements is $1,058.
Difference, delta between what it was previous and, or to update.
It's to make this one
That's
time
for the plan.
thing, yeah, so next time we do a 3-year plan, this will be incorporated, but since they have to come back and touch this, so we need approval for that, so you can be in compliance. That, we have heard from them, if we approve that, they can do that in November, basically, so we'll be okay with the deadline. If you go out of compliance with that day,
Stacy, we don't need an approval to do that, we just need authorization, sign off on it, right? I mean, it's a $1,000 expense, so submit it, we'll get it.
and we actually emailed it, execute, so you have it, so whatever happened, to help expedite. So that'll put you in compliance, and that is all that we have.
I have one question for you regarding, and this may fall into new business for us as well, the fencing project. We've had comments and a few people reach out to us regarding the access of the hangars, the private hangars on the east side of the airport. Robert and I met with Gary Samoan, I don't know how to say his last name properly. And
Simonian.
Simonian, thank you. We met with him some time back, and the realities are that the tenants over there, we can't negotiate with the tenants over there. They have no authority to sign an agreement with the airport authority, only the owner does. So while we will hear their opinions, the realities are it's got to be something between the airport authority and the owner of the property. My question for you is there a path, and I know there is, I've spoken with the FAA on it, to be able to approve that, but is there a meaningful forward path? What would the cost be? And so we need to work on this a little bit so that as we have conversations with Joey Thompson, the representative for the family, that we can have meaningful conversations.
And I would say you've got, so in the arc of this, because you had phase one and it's locked in, but it goes around but doesn't quite get to that spot, right? Picking up by the hangar ABCD, right?
Yeah.
And you're going around for everybody. We're going around that way because in the horseshoe, there's stuff that you have that may be coming and all, so we don't want to fence it, then immediately cut that fence up. So if we do that last, that's a good way, efficient way to approach it. So in the arc of this then $1 million one that kind of encompasses everything around back to the horseshoe, the arc where that has to be kind of finalized, I would say, is probably, I would say it's December. We have to kind of, the longest you could go before turning the plans in to GDOT for them to write all that stuff. So you have a window there to be thinking about talking to whoever.
We may not have that long of a window, but I'll explain that in a moment.
Okay, so, but then that's gonna have to go to GDOT Aviation and through the MFA and all that. To say why what we show on the plans is being shown like that. And ultimately, if there's any kind of, there's a few things that could, the land could be deeded and then you exchange for something, whatever the arc that's figured out, that does, like as you said, have to go back to them for their blessing and agreement, and then we would show, on the plan set what they agreed to.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately, because we've been pushed on this and we know the fencing project has come, I've spoken with Cody at the FAA. And Cody was unaware that we have a through the fence operation. It's now been brought to his attention, and he assures me that we are in violation of FAA grant assurances, and that even without the fence, now we have to deal with the situation. So it's gonna have to be dealt with one way or the other.
Yeah.
And from the airport authority side, we don't have the budget to buy the property. We don't have the budget to improve the property if it were gifted to us. Because as you and I spoke, the taxiway coming into and out of there is not not acceptable from a safety perspective. So there's some challenges that are going to arise because of the questions and the push that's come from the tenants over there. Not necessarily the owner, but the tenants. That's gonna drive this thing forward. So they pulled the Band-Aid off and now we have to deal with the wound beneath it. So it's gonna take whatever arc it takes. Personally, I'm not in favor of through the fence operations because of the troubles that come from those, not necessarily now, but down the road. That said, if there's a meaningful way forward that makes sense for the airport, doesn't create liability on our side, either financially or legally, then we'll entertain it. But just recognize that we have an open issue with the FAA at this point because we have acknowledged having a through the fence operation.
And you have, out of and Cody has been there a few years, part of Cody, effectively on your 5-year CIP. If you go back even previous years, for a while, you have had in the 5th year, a land acquisition in there that says east side, and it is literally, so you had, in their mind, a mechanism to deal with it at the point that they decided to
It's a problem.
push.
Yeah.
And even back then, you discussed, as we grow from 40-some aircraft up to, things become more visible on their radar, and they have expectations and enforcement thing that they ratchet up. So like you said, that's the thing, you know it's a thing, and then you'll have appropriate ways that are acceptable to everybody to deal with it, and then whatever that result is, that'll be incorporated into those.
So I will reach out to you at some point to try and pull a meeting together with you and Joey, and let's sit down and have a conversation with a drawing on the table and see if there's anything there. There may or may not be. It just, we'll figure out what we can or can't do.
And how many, did you guys figure out how many aircraft are actually there?
Alexis might know.
I don't think she had a number last time.
Stacy, do you have any idea?
I don't.
Our tax assessor probably would, because they should be paying ad valorem taxes to the county.
Right.
But I'm told it's between 12 and 20 aircraft. I know there's some of the aircraft over there that are not airworthy. One of our former authority members has 2 airframes over there that he's rebuilding for the last 20 years. And so I know that those are not airworthy, and I don't think they're counted in that number.
Okay.
I don't have a clear answer, sorry.
Will losing those airplanes impact the minimum number we need to maintain our current level of?
It will not, because they're not on airport property, therefore they can't be included in our based aircraft account.
Interesting.
Because they're a through defense operation, it's not a part of our based aircraft.
Couple of quick questions, if I may. Is it easy enough to run down what's on the 5-year CIP that's going in November? Because I think I heard that is settled and just needs to get sent.
You can get a copy of it. We're not gonna run through it tonight. It was gone through at the
It was
last
gone
meeting.
through, yeah, and you were here when it was gone through, and nothing's changed off of that, so it's the same one that was gone through last time.
Thank you, cool, okay, awesome. And there's a new gate around the parking lot, or a new fence around the parking lot, and there's a gate. Is there any plan yet for how that gate will be used, controlled, manipulated? Is it clickers, is it passes, is it a punch key? Do we know?
For the man gates, it'll probably be a keypad.
And you have ultimate
For,
ability to
yeah,
flip it or as a new
at
terminal
some
comes
point,
in.
there will be additional mechanical gates around the airport.
Mhm.
Those will all be key carded. And the reason for that is, if you put a key code on
Everybody
it,
knows it.
they're, why bother putting it on there? So
Understood.
it will be access controlled, and the idea is that those who have T-hangers or box hangers out on that northwest side will have key card to get in that gate.
Mhm.
Those who don't will have to drive around the west taxiway and into another key gate or carded gate down the other end.
Right.
So we're gonna try and use a carded gate system to reduce some of the traffic that we see on the ramp out there today.
Sounds
We
good
have
too.
far too much traffic. We put up a speed bump at the entrance there to slow people down because there was 30, 40 miles an hour around that corner sometimes. So we gotta slow it down, we gotta control it. So that's the long-term plan.
Expect a key card Sunday. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And thanks, Ms. Mender.
All right, anything else, Phil? Anything else from you guys? Have fun at the Georgia Airport Authority meeting next week. Mark will be joining you guys down there. I will not. I'm flying a bit too much next week to be able to get there, so hate I'll miss it. Commissioner is not here to give us a report this evening, so we'll move on past that. Any old business that we need to address for the authority? None that I know of. New business, the only thing there is the fencing. That's actually, I guess, we talked about it in the engineer's report, and it's old business there. I think that concludes our agenda. With that, I'll call the meeting to close, and thank everyone for coming out this evening. We'll see you in 2 months from now.
Health Committee.
Second Tuesday, health and weather permitting. So who knows these days. Thank you, guys.